Hello and welcome to our first podcast. It's me, Griesch, and of course the most important person in WoW, Savage.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, of course you're more important than Watcher and Sko and everybody. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you just trying to get me into bed, Griesch? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, always, always. Haven't you noticed already?
No.
So, just a short explanation for our first podcast. This is just right now me and Savage talking about WoW stuff, and for this episode, we had a look at the max distance changes from the camera in World of Warcraft, and we're gonna talk about this topic today, and probably just gonna rage about it, right, Savage?
Yeah, we're not happy.
No, like nobody is right now at the moment, as Watcher already noticed in his blue thread. He was talking like, what is it? A quote will be intensively unpopular. Yeah,
Is that almost an understatement? It almost is.
yeah, it almost is, but I was just thinking like that he's opening with will be intensively unpopular and still wants to put it out there.
Yeah, but flying was intensively unpopular by anyone who didn't understand why they weren't doing flying. So I can see where he's coming from there, but there's a lot of this thing feels a bit more
Impactful.
Controversial. Yeah, it's very impactful. Like flying, yes, you can say it changes your gameplay, but you can actually enhance your gameplay.
Yeah. Flying is always you can choose not to fly or not to do the achievements to get flying. But this is like they restrict you to not use this feature of the game, which is implemented in vanilla, I think. Like, it was always there, and people always used it. I'm not sure. I didn't play on vanilla, so.
No point asking me.
Yeah, but since I played and discovered raiding for myself, I always use the max distance camera feature. Like everybody basically does who's raiding on a
Seriously.
high level. I think like I never talked to somebody who's not using it, because if you basically watch some videos and stuff, you're always thinking like, okay, this camera he sees more of the raid, and why don't I do that? So it's basically an advantage, as he said on his post.
Yeah, but in my opinion, the advantage is gains through. Yes, like they said in the post. You could do it via actually changing the slider in game. It's like, but we don't want you to do that because we want you to see the world. Like, why make the camera distance so far if half of my screen is taken up with a rock?
Yeah.
Could not be bothered to see a rock. That's what I can see half the time in Legion. It's just a rock or my character.
Yeah.
If I'm in the world and I want to see something properly, I will zoom in. I will do that. I will just scroll all the way in because I like to see the content. The content looks beautiful in a lot of places. But in a raid, I do not care what I can see.
Yeah.
I want to see as much as I possibly can, not the detail. And if you're focusing on the little details of a raid, you're probably gonna die.
Yeah, because this fire looks amazing. Hey, guy, you soaked just 5 stacks of the fire and died. Yeah. Now you can watch the fire from below. Great.
I think it tells us Ian Hazzakostas is definitely a ranged player because he hasn't been in melee before.
I don't know what he's talking
horrible.
about, but he's definitely not a tank. That's for sure, because tanks are raging on the forum and everywhere. Like, they can see shit at this point right now. They're talking about it, and that's basically a problem. Everybody's telling us that if you can't see shit in a raid, your performance will go down, because you can't see like somebody's walking around or just think about tanks having to pick up ads at a certain point that just spawn on the position of the ranged players. Great.
It's just not pleasant. It is an advantage. I will agree with their post, but if you design your game to be fun and competitive raiding, then isn't that advantage something that you should give an option to all players? It's like saying something like Archimond. You needed a boss mod or weak auras to do that fight. Like you could have possibly done it that last phase with the Mark of the Legion. That is possible to do without add-ons and weak auras, but it's an extreme hindrance. They almost expect you to use an add-on there, I would say, because it is so complicated.
Yeah.
So why do they want us now not to, it's like saying, well, people get add-ons. Well, yeah, if you wanted to do high-end raiding, you require add-ons. That's sort of that's how the game works.
There is the possibility for the developers to make content harder than in vanilla, because in vanilla and old game nobody had these boss mods and everybody was looking at it, and I think we agree that the bosses weren't easier at this time because you had to manage 40 people and everything, but the mechanics from the boss were much easier at this point because no add-ons were there. So you couldn't expect, like, think about Archimond in vanilla. Nobody has some raid mods or something. Think about the Wrath. Like,
Oh God.
40 people with
Kill
Wrath
me now.
without add-ons die. So it's a clear advantage to come back to the max distance camera. But why take this away? And they were talking about the advantage for players that don't know about the console stuff and how to get this max distance camera. But there are a lot of add-ons out there. If you want to know how to improve your game, you just basically Google search for max distance camera in WoW and you find it. Like, first link everywhere. Just get it. Like, if somebody is searching for it, he will find it. It isn't something like very hidden in the dark internet or somewhere. So you can find it easily. And that's for my second point. Like, why just don't they increase the standard max distance view of WoW if that's such a big advantage? Just make the max distance view from standard WoW without console knowledge wider, and everybody has it, and everybody can easily have this distance.
The problem with a game like WoW is people get too good at it. Sounds really stupid, but they get too good at the game. It's why bosses in vanilla are so much easier to make. They take 5 minutes. Well, they don't, but the mechanics aren't as complicated because people don't understand the exact things. If you see, for example, the theory crafting thread that Blizzard have been running, telling people exactly how certain things are calculated so they can make top-end rotations and work out the priority list and how certain stats interact, because the game is complicated. The game is extremely complicated if you go into the complete depths. Maybe some classes are not, but I mean, even people who say Arcane Mage is ridiculously simple this tier, there's a lot of like haste breakpoints and haste soft caps and things like this where certain points of haste were really useful, but you had to understand how the game worked. You had to understand about server latency for one of them, because the pets summoned by the Arcane 4 set were completely controlled by the server latency. So they're saying it's not going back to the camera distance. They're saying, well, people should have access to it, but then even top end playing of a class, you need to go and do some research. And if you're going to research how to raid, you should probably go and research your camera distance. If everybody else is using it, why shouldn't you use it? And if you're a hardcore enough raider, you don't have to be completely hardcore to this stuff, but if you're willing to put maximum effort into your raiding, then finding a console command is not difficult.
No, it's definitely not. And like, they explained that they want to have this, not advantage for everybody. Everybody can easily find it if they want to improve. And so what does it mean for raiding if they cut it? Like, I don't know, probably players like Method or Serenity or Midwinter will be raging as well, I think. But I think they will just, if they keep it like they do it right now in Legion, with camera distance is only half of it, I think. Not
Something
sure about
like
it.
that. It's a lot smaller. It's not pleasant.
It's insanely smaller. What does it mean for raiding? Like, I remember Rand talking about Rand on this topic, and he was like, I'm not gonna tank in Legion if this is going on the live servers. Like, will people quit raiding or playing WoW because of the max distance camera because they feel uncomfortable with the raiding?
I don't think they will, just because there's so many things that people have said, I'm going to quit because. But I bet you there will come an add-on that will be illegal, which will be against TOC, which will change the game files so you can actually have a higher camera distance. There's things like that called T-Morph. Obviously, Blizzard knows they exist, but it's all done client side, not server side, so it's quite difficult to see. But they don't pick up, if you stream it, they pick up on it. But otherwise, they don't really pick up on it, from what I know. I don't know many people have been banned for using T-Morph. I will not release the names of people who are using Team Off for some strange reason. There you go. But I think this is likely to become another one of these things where it's like, okay, Team Off was all about looking good. This add-on might actually increase your performance if it becomes available.
Yeah, and people will try to increase their performance if they can, of course. Everybody does, like with add-ons like Deadly Boss mods or Big Wigs or Weak Hours. Everybody's trying to improve their performance in raiding. And to be honest, I would use such an add-on if it would come out and I could see more. Like me as a Resto Shaman, placing a Spirit Link totem to another group outside of my view distance is hard. It would be so hard and nearly impossible because the reaction time you probably have to react, especially in progress, is way too short to move your camera correctly. Like the trick on Archimond, which I'm using right now, which is not really important at this point, but probably would have been on progress, where I used my Spirit Link totem and replace it to another group with the explosion of the mark, probably won't be possible if pre-patch hits. So it's basically a big nerf to raiding and every class that has some special abilities to affect wide areas.
It's an interesting one. It's like I watch videos of people who are being workshopped by a man called Preach, and one of them was zoomed the hell out because you cannot see a thing. Try playing in melee with stampedes as they are in live. Yes, they're changing stampede, but it's horrible. Especially if you zoomed in or you can't see your character because you've got some giant corehound ass in your face. There's literally nothing you can do. And I like being able to just go, nope, don't want to see that. Need to see the boss, need to see the ad that's coming in. As a range DPS, I rely on my camera. I rely on having it there in my face and I can see everything. So when an ad comes in, I see its health bar pop up which I'll be using a add-on to see health bars with the target. Everybody uses them, nameplates, and if I can't see that, I won't DPS it because I'm a mage. I'm an arcane mage. I will just tunnel that boss all day or my crystal. But if something's got a health frame and I can see it, it's much more likely to switch to it. Ads on Mana Off, for example, when you get the Infernals coming down, sometimes they are miles to the side. And if I have to turn my camera to see them, that to me is just, it's a DPS loss.
Yeah, and the DPS loss means you're not gonna switch. You're not gonna do it.
No.
And probably this is the worst point about raiding. People that don't give a fuck right now about the raid mechanics or something, it basically will affect even LFR raiding. If you want to hate on LFR raiding as you want, because people don't give a fuck about mechanics or something, as you don't have to watch any mechanics because they don't kill you. But just think of an ad that has to be killed even on LFR. But no range or melee DPS can see it because of the zoomed-in camera. Nobody will switch.
Tank hasn't picked it up because it's on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
And knowing LFR tanks, tanking two mobs together is very, very difficult.
Or tanking at least one mob is very difficult.
Pretty much.
No, it just affects raiding as a whole. It's basically a hard mode from Ulduar. It makes raiding unnecessarily hard, in my opinion. So why implement it? And if you implement it, why now? Why exactly now in Legion? Because the max view distance is increased, the details are increased, but they force you to not see as much as you can. So
it's a crying shame because the graphics in Legion are top notch.
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
The game looks awesome. You can tell the questline, everything is awesome so far from what I saw in Legion. And with this point, they're just smashing everything like into the ground because everybody now is just raging about the max distance camera because the devs are taking something away from the players and not giving them something in exchange. So they, of course, raging about this part. And I personally believe that for some people, this would be a reason not to play Legion. Because they're like, okay, I can't raid probably, so I'm not gonna play it. Or like, I can't tank because of the max distance view, so I'm gonna go DPS or range DPS, and we have a lot less tanks than we have right now, which is still a big problem to find good tanks right now in World of Warcraft.
Finding a good tank is horrible.
Yeah.
So horrible. That's a discussion for another day, however, finding tanks.
Finding tanks and healers, great.
Yeah, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I love healing. Like, you get instant queues. For another example, not from the perspective of a tank or healer or something, but from the perspective of a raid leader. It's very interesting because I saw a post on a US forum of Legion beta. He was telling like, okay, great, now I can see who fucked up the fire and wiped our whole raid. Of course, you can look up in Warcraft logs, but not everyone is like, okay, great, let's look up and research, and not everybody is able to find them. And so it makes it way harder to realize who fucked up and who you have to shout on not to do it again, or who is failing a lot. So why?
The other point to this is, as you said with raid leaders, going on to them is what about people who are streaming? Like, if I'm watching a stream, I don't want to see the boss's ass the entire fight. I want to see what's going on. I want to see what people are doing. And with this camera distance thing, I can't see as much, and it makes a stream less enjoyable for me if I can only see the boss's ass and the rogue tickling his nuts with a dagger. That's what a rogue does. But I want to see the fight. I want to see what's going on. Maybe I don't want to. I'm watching them to see what my fight would be like as a ranged, even if they are playing melee, and I can keep an eye on them. But with this new camera distance, I can't do that. I think that's a crying shame.
It's, as you said, a big downside for streamers as well. Because just think of even the space you have for add-ons. Because you have less space that you not want to watch at a certain point. So there's even less space for your add-ons, and you have to make them smaller. You can't make a giant big plate that's telling you you're standing in shit, or don't use cloak. So
cloak is OP.
Yeah, cloak is OP. In my opinion, it has only downsides, decreasing the max distance camera. Why are they doing this to us? Because they want to have more experience and see more of the world. But as you said in the beginning, you will zoom in if you want to see something. If somebody likes to watch the rock, how it looks like, they will zoom in. But why do you have to force people not to see as much as they could before?
I don't understand it, honestly. The logic behind the post doesn't make particularly much sense. I agree that the game looks incredible and they want people to see that. I completely agree, and I think the game does look incredible. But then we need to sit down and say, okay, the game looks incredible. If you want to see it, just zoom in. That's fine. And zoomed into items because I'm interested in what they look like. Because why not? It's a really interesting piece of design. But during a fight, nah. Yeah, this is my general feeling on most of it. I understand where they're coming from, but it doesn't benefit. It's very easy to zoom in. Now you're making it impossible to zoom out. I don't see the point in that.
Yeah, that's basically also my thought. Like, why take away this thing? You can easily zoom in if you want, and why remove it? Or just implement it as a basic stuff on WoW that you can zoom out this far if you don't want to have this advantage for only a certain amount of players. And for raiding as a whole, it's horrible not to see as much as you did before. And yeah, there probably will be add-ons or some other stuff that will increase your view distance, and people will find a way to see more of the raid than WoW will offer them if they keep it like this.
Yeah, I think that's the general point. People are gonna find ways around this. So we may be getting in a flap over it, but there will be a way around. It's just whether we can stream that because we might get banned for it.
Yeah, and so nobody will stream, for example, progress, or just stream anyway. Another point, kill videos. Kill videos are so not interesting if you don't see shit, because a lot of people are watching kill videos because, oh, they killed it, but there are a lot of people watching kill videos for, okay, how did Method or Serenity or Midwinter, however, or Paragon, I don't know, they're not.
They're gone now.
They're gone now, right? Yeah.
Pretty sure Midwinter's gone as well. But there you go.
I don't know. That there will be some other guilds coming up. How
Scrubz.
did they kill it? How would this tactic influence our raid or something? Is it possible for our raid to do that and kill the boss faster? And if you a rogue and just upload it, then you see the ass of the boss. Great. Yeah, I've seen that a lot as if you're playing a rogue on your own.
I'm pretty used to that. Every bit of the time, I know that boss's ass crack perfectly.
With these words, I think we quit the podcast.
I think we need to. After that.
Yeah. or we're gonna rage more and more and more and more. And to end with boss's ass is always great and a good idea.
Definitely.
So,
100%.
yeah. Thank you again, Savage,
Yep,
for being in this podcast. For everybody interested, we will do this more often now. Like talking about Legion stuff. There will be coming up some more. Yeah, standard YouTube stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. And otherwise, thank you for watching. Thank you, Savage, again. And your last words for this podcast.
Boss's asses are not pretty.
See ya.
See ya.